Dharma Circle. Swati here, the embodied Dharma coach. How do you wake up your lazy ancestors? And how do you know if you have lazy ancestors? Why do you need to wake up your lazy ancestors? And what do you do with these ancestors who are not showing up fully for you, even after you've tried and you've asked? So let's dive into this. If you're a contract worker, this means that you have been hired by your ancestors to accomplish one contract. You have a contract with your ancestors, and it has to do with Dharma. So this is a reminder that if you're a contract worker who's been hired by your ancestors to fulfill a contract, there has been adharma in the lineage, significant adharma in the lineage, and your job is to restore the Dharma to the lineage. So there's been likely generations of disconnection with Dharma. And your job is to bring the wholeness back to the lineage. If everyone's been going left, your job as the contract worker is to go right and to rebalance the lineage. So a contract worker is always the different one. They're doing things differently, and you have to do things differently. That's actually part of your contract. You need your ancestors for support. You have to work with your ancestors for Dharma. There is no Dharma without the ancestors. And you have to be working with your ancestors and get their support, their guidance, feel the connection with them in order for you to get the job done. This is essential. And it's one of the reasons why when someone is wanting dharmic clarity and what's my purpose, what's my soul purpose, it's the missing piece. You're not in right relationship with your ancestral contract. You don't know what your lineage contract is, and you're not working with your ancestors. So you're not getting the support and the proper guidance that you need to fulfill the Dharma, the dharmic duty. So if you're a contract worker, non-negotiable, you've got to have ancestral support. And the ancestors give you your Dharma. This is passed through the lineage. This is not something that just started with you. So again, it's all about your lineage gifts, and understanding what that is. So lazy ancestors they're not unwell. Unwell ancestors are completely different. We're not working with them. I don't work with unwell ancestors. If you have unwell ancestors, you're going to need specific support and guidance for that. Unwell ancestors are stuck in between realms, and they cause a lot of problems. And it can be very challenging, very painful, very problematic for the dharmic path. They might even sabotage you every step of the way. That's something different. A lazy ancestor is an ancestor who needs to be woken up. The lazy ancestor is an ancestor that you're not working with entirely. They might be on the periphery, you might be aware of them, but the support isn't there, the guidance isn't there. You're not feeling the connection with them. This is very problematic because you need a team of support that's actually working with you. And so a lazy ancestor, they're not going to provide the support and the guidance that you need. So we've got to wake them up. Lazy ancestors will keep you lazy. And a lot of times the living ancestor may be the lazy one, and your ancestors are trying to get your attention. And we don't need any more laziness. So you as the contract worker need to be awake. You need to be focused. You need to be able to connect with your ancestors properly and get the job done. And you don't want lazy ancestors slowing you down, keeping you stuck, and keeping you malnourished along the way. So first and foremost, we don't want to be the lazy one, right? Secondly, if the ancestors are lazy and they're not supporting you, you're not feeling the connection, you're not getting the nourishment and the support that you need, we need to wake them up and we need to be firm and clear. And you have to let them know, I need your help and I need to work with you, and wake up. Now, the easiest way to start waking up your lazy ancestors is to literally be yelling at them. When was the last time you yelled at your ancestors? Sometimes screaming, yelling, grieving, purging the grief and throwing it at them and letting them know, hey, wake up. And you have to be very firm. This can't be like I need to be nice about it. And, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And it should all be love and light and gratitude. And go watch my This Is Not Ancestral Work reminder if that's where you are, because ancestral work requires that you are doing your grief work, your trauma work, and your shadow work. Otherwise, you're not really doing your ancestral work. And so a big part of this is yelling, being loud, getting big, and making your demands known. So when was the last time you yelled at your ancestors and made your demands clear and firm? If they're really lazy, you're going to have to do this over and over and over again until they wake the fuck up. And your job as the contract worker is to wake them up. Now, typically, when someone comes to work with me, their ancestors are the ones that are throwing them at me. So the ancestors are pretty awake and they're trying to get you to wake up. But I also meet people who have very lazy ancestors. They're being lazy, they're being lackadaisical with their ancestors, and as a result, the ancestors just stay asleep and they're not waking up. So it's your job to wake them up, let them know that you are ready to work with them, that you need their help, and that you are not going to be quiet about this. Now, if you don't have an ancestor altar set up already, this is a really good place to start. You should have an ancestor altar in your home. It can be outside. Of course, it's never in a bathroom or a bedroom or a kitchen. And you're feeding the ancestors every single day. And this is how we build the relationship with spirit, with the ancestors, and we let them know, hey, I'm serious. I'm feeding you, and I demand that you show up and feed me too. So if you're noticing that your ancestors are lazy, they're not showing up to support you, you're not getting the guidance that you need, you don't feel supported or nourished by your lineage, you must start feeding and you must wake up these lazy ancestors. Now, just a reminder, if you have a partner, if you're in a partnership of any kind, you need to be very firm and clear with your partner's ancestors that you are not going to do their work for them. Often what happens is your partner may have lazy ancestors. And they see an opportunity in you, the contract worker, and think, she'll do this work and she'll do this labor for free, and we're just going to get her to do it. You need to be very firm and clear with your partner's ancestors that you're not doing their work with them, you're not doing the work for them, and you keep redirecting them to your partner. That's his job. That's his job. Get him to do it. I told you to get him to do this. This is about spiritual boundaries, and I see this a lot with contract workers. Very leaky boundaries physically and spiritually. And as a result, the partner's ancestors are getting a lot of free labor. They're getting a free ride out of the relationship. And it becomes very draining, very toxic, very overwhelming. It can cause health problems, financial problems, challenges with money, of course, and you'll start to just feel depleted. The worst of the worst is when your own Dharma gets sabotaged or destroyed because your partner's ancestors are not doing their work. And this becomes very tragic. Of course, most of the problems that we have are a result of partnerships. And we're seeing this, research is showing this now, that especially for women, everything about our health, our success in life, and our own vitality and nourishment is determined by our relationships, particularly primary relationship. Be careful of those sneaky ancestors, your partner's ancestors, who may be getting some free labor from you because you're not being firm and clear in your boundaries. And you can keep redirecting them and saying no and being firm in your boundaries, and just know that there will come a point that if your partner and his ancestors don't start to work together and start doing their work, it will become too heavy for you to carry. It will become too much of a burden for you, and you'll have to make some decisions if it's really worth it for you, if it's going to be safe, and if you can really get your needs met and your nourishment met, because a partner is the first thing that can sidetrack you and destroy your dharmic path. So we have to be very careful who we're working with, who we're walking with. Lazy ancestors may show up with your partner, so be aware, be firm and clear. Don't wake up your partner's ancestors for him. That's his job. But you can keep yelling at his ancestors and say, go wake him up. You do your work together, and I'm not doing that work with you. With your own ancestors, you need them. You must be firm and clear. You must make your demands, and you must be very clear in your contract. What's mine, what's not mine. I see a lot of contract workers who are doing work that's outside of the scope of their dharmic contract. We see the contract very clearly in your Jyotish chart. It's not rocket science. Everything is there. We're looking at a map of your ancestral body, all of your lineage karma. We can see this in the Rashi chart, the D1, Navamsha, Vargas, the additional charts that we use to understand layers of karma, mother's lineage, father's lineage, how that comes together. And it's all part of understanding your dharmic path, your specific contract with your ancestors. And that way, once you know this is my work, that is not my work to do, you can stay one-pointed, focused on your dharmic path, your dharmic duty, your contract with your ancestors, and not get sidetracked or sabotaged or distracted or overwhelmed. It's very important to know what the contract is specifically, make your demands clear, and of course we can restructure the contract, but we can't sever the contract. That's dangerous. So you are able to restructure the contract, and that's, this is all part of waking up your ancestral relationship, and of course making sure that your ancestors are awake, they're working with you, you're working as a team, you're getting the proper support that you need. If you want to feed your ancestors well and work as a team to strengthen the nourishment, support, and guidance with your ancestors, join me in my workshop this month. This is one of the easiest and simplest ways to start working with me and getting more resources and tools for your path. I make it very easy to join this entry-level first step. The Feed Your Ancestors workshop is late August, and I want to encourage you to sign up and join this workshop. I won't be offering this again live. This is a one-time only class. There are some incredible bonuses that will support you in strengthening your ancestral understanding, your contract, using your Jyotish chart, and there are a couple other Jyotish bonuses that will support you on your path as well. If you're ready to join the ancestral workshop, the Feed Your Ancestors workshop, comment ancestors below. I'll make sure you get the link. Everything's inside the Dharma Circle. This is the platform on School that I use, and it's a wonderful place to get access to all of my resources and tools, even this workshop. So join the Dharma Circle, and I'll share the link to register with you. Comment ancestors below, and we're going to be talking about waking up lazy ancestors, how to feed your ancestors, what your contract actually is, what it looks like to fulfill your duty, and ultimately how to really strengthen this work with your ancestral team to really get the guidance, the nourishment, and support that you need on your dharmic path. Comment ancestors below. Join me for my Feed Your Ancestors workshop and learn more about waking up your lazy ancestors and building a team with your ancestors, your well ancestors, and creating more strength, guidance, and support and clarity for your dharmic path. I'll see you soon. Bye.